C.O.R.T. Children of the Round Table, issue 1, which is Tom Taylor writing with Daniele Di Niccuolo on art. This was one that wasn't really one that we were going to do by default because I don't like King Arthur stuff is the short answer.
Yeah. And I do. I don't have time for this kind of book, right? Like I read so much stuff as is. So it just would have, fallen by the wayside. If I heard good things, maybe I'll read it when it gets collected, along those lines.
But it won the vote. So we're here to check it out. And it is Tom Taylor, so I wasn't like going into it thinking, oh, it's going to be a complete chore, because I assumed it'd have his skill, the characters would probably be likable enough, and I do think the structure of this is pretty good. I think the characters are all very instantly kind of memorable in their personality. You've got the main blonde kid who's a little bit of a shit. You've got the redhead girl who kind of like they're playing football or soccer for the Americans, and which I guess makes sense because it's technically in England. Like she beats him, she scores a goal and celebrates, and he feels a little bit emasculated by it. And it turns out they're all part of like a group who are going to go on this like adventure, this RPG style adventure with one of their friends. The main kid doesn't really want to go because he feels butthurt, but he does end up going anyway. But there's a lot of personality, in particular the two main kids. But then once we get to the rest of them, very quickly you get a sense of who each of them are. Like one's definitely more the tech kid, one's more the kind of the hipstery, all that kind of thing. But the main kid's just been a little spoilt sport the entire time. He keeps saying, "Oh, I've been on this trail with my grandfather. He's got a bad hip. None of this matters. Stop taking this so seriously." Because the other kids all didn't bring their phones because the I guess we'll call him the dungeon master. His rules are no phones. Like we are totally immersed in the adventure. But the main kid whips out his phone and is like, blah blah, who cares? So he's been a little brat the entire time.
Yeah, and you instantly get to know their dynamics between their conversations, and them talking about the one kid, it's Randall, who's like the dungeon master. He's talking it up like it's going to be this big epic quest, and we're going to go to a cave. And Connor, funnily enough, is the spoil sport.
That's right. How can I forget? It's such a perfect fit.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I did this with my grandma, and she had 3 hip replacements, and that was one more than she needed, and this type of stuff. And so you kind of already get their group dynamics, that they're friends, but there's bickering, and there's going to be, there's always going to be a bit of tension between them. Also, being that they're kids.
There is a dog, so this Connor may get injured if he's not careful. Just
absolutely.
Putting that
and it's
out
a
there.
big dog. Even Phil, who's our main girl with the red hair, her mom says, we got a dog, and Phil's like, yeah, but I wasn't expecting it to be so massive, and so yeah. Big, huge dog that goes on with them. And I'm sure it'll become endeared to us if we keep reading this. But, there's a giant meteor, if you want to call it that, crash lands next to them. And this was teased at the start of the book. There was a scene in a lab where they're like, oh, it's time for a new generation because the Arthur meteor is leaving or something. But it crash lands next to them, and there is a big panel where it's rolling towards them like the Indiana Jones ball. So fair play for the fun elements. So for me, where the issue starts to run into the hurdle for my personal thing, where I just don't give a shit about King Arthur stuff, is obviously they look up and there's a sword in this big rock, right, that's just crash landed, and they're like, what's that? And Connor tries to pull it out and he can't, right? He's like, it's stuck, it doesn't work. And he's really trying, he's biting his lip and he's going all red. And then the girl, right, Fel goes up, takes it, she says, I feel something, and it starts to glow, and she pulls it out, and we get the whole holding it above her head kind of moment, sword in the stone, full page spread, and they're all like, whoa, that can't be. But then the rock explodes and they all have weapons fly towards them into their hands, and it's all color coded as well. It's almost Power Rangers-esque, where there's one blue weapon, one purple weapon, so on. And they're all very different weapons. One gets a spear, one gets a weird head, helmet thing. It's like a helm, yeah.
One gets like a big sort of, I'll call it a drill, I guess. It's got like a pointy thing that looks like it spins. But
it's like a traditional lance that you would see them joust with.
But much thicker.
It's got the handle.
Yeah, but it looks super...
that's what I'm.
Yeah.
But it's really thick. Yeah. But yeah, this is where it started to lose me because it became a typical.
It's got girth. It's got girth, Matt.
Girth. Yeah, it's got to be two-hander, right? I shouldn't say this in a kid book. That was bad. Bad, Matt.
This show is not for kids. We're talking to some kids may be listening, but whatever.
Yes,
grow up, children.
Anyways, this is where it started to kind of lose me because it started to become more of that formulaic Power Rangers, VR Troopers, Beetleborgs, Saturday cartoon kid thing.
Here's the thing: I would be into that because I grew up with those shows. If it wasn't King Arthur shit, because. Then the weapons start talking to them, and it's like, oh, like one of them's like Gawain, one of them's Lancelot, one of them, and I'm like, oh, and this is the point where they're saying that, like, because they don't say their own names, they kind of start bickering with each other, like the kids were bickering with each other, which I get the parallels there. That's smart writing, so fair play, Taylor. You know what you're doing. Like the book's well written, but. Like, one voice from a sword, like, says, oh, shut up, Lancelot, to, like, the other weapon. And they also, like, say each other's names. And I'm like... The mere thought that I'm going to, like, recognize all these names and, like, instantly be able to, like, tell which one's which is, like, so far away from reality that there's no way. No way, okay?
I'm going to remember the knights' names easier than these kids' names. I'll tell you that much. But I also... like Arthurian legend, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's funny though that one kid just gets a stick to the point where
I got a stick.
When he the first panel where he was holding it, I was thinking, wait, you didn't get one? But then he says, oh no, I get a stick, and I'm like, oh okay. And his is the only one that doesn't talk. Now I'm assuming the joke payoff to this in like an issue or 2 issues time is that this stick's going to end up being the most badass weapon because it's going to transform or something.
Well,
but
yeah. Don't forget that Merlin was also kind of a druid, and
it's a wand?
Use earth magic. Maybe it's a wand, and maybe this is how Merlin factors in, or maybe just a part of a tree exploded. And he thinks it's a weapon. He got left out, and he just has a stick. Yeah.
So the voices say, hey, we're going to train you all how to fight, but today's not the day to do that. They're coming, and they're like, who's coming? And they're like, the Mordred. And I assume if you know King Arthur shit, you know what that means, but I don't. So
yes.
So the issue ends with them running off. So it's like, hey, we're going to train you to be fighters, blah, blah, blah. The art is obviously very high quality. It's going for this very kind of, kid-friendly, cartoony kind of approach. The kids' faces are all very, not super over-accentuated, but they're a bit rounder to give it this kind of playful vibe.
It gives me manga vibes, but it's not quite manga. But it's in the family.
It's in the family. It's the second cousin of manga. Yes.
Yeah, and I remember when Di Nicolo did Nightwing. I believe it was the first time we saw Nightmite. I want to say so. They went into Blockbuster's kids realm, right, with the daughter, and they had to help her. So I see that. And again, this is not to my taste in art. It's fine, but a lot of the way that the kids' faces were drawn and stuff, again, that's not to my taste.
I do like the coloring though. Like, everything's very clean. Yes. Everything's very vivid. Like I do think it's making right choices for the book that it's supposed to be. Yeah. And I do think some of the kids are kind of instantly likable. Not Connor, obviously, but the group dynamic is there. So I think Taylor, he's still a good writer. He still knows what he's doing here, and it still works to a point. But the point where it hits, where it's like doing stuff that I just do not care about, because like I literally, like my eyes will start to roll and I'll groan the second you start talking about King Arthur stuff. That's how I felt, and I'm like, if this was Power Coins and they were becoming Power Rangers, I would be all into it. But it's not. That's not exactly what this is.
Give them dinosaur machines, and we're good. You give them swords and Arthurian legend, Pete's out.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that I was even quite enjoying this until the weapons started talking, and that was when it all just kind of was like, okay, you're going to start bringing in the lore, you're going to start talking about the history of King Arthur and his round table and all that bollocks. And I knew I wouldn't like it, which is why I didn't want to read this. And the patrons decide to make us read it, and that's fine. But this is your issue. I mean, maybe issue 2 will be on the vote for next time, like depending on how many issue 1s I can find for the next vote. But I'm not choosing to read the next issue, so it is what it is. But I think it's well written. I think the art style is appropriate for what it's doing. I just ultimately do not like the mythology that it's tapping into. I actively am repelled by it for whatever reason. I've just always been just like, repelled's a good word, because I don't want to say disgusted, because that's too strong.
No, it's because you're Scottish and you have no time for the English legends. You're just like, nah, we're up here. Keep that stuff down there.
I appreciate that joke, but I think it's just because it's like more fantasy, and I'm not into fantasy generally speaking. So I also don't like other things that are like I don't like Lord of the Rings, for example.
Yeah. I came to Arthurian legend through the show Gargoyles, and so that's where it all comes through for me. So I got more into it, and it's good. This is fine. You already have, if you know anything about the Knights of the Round Table, hearing them bicker like this, the kid who has the issues with Fell, so Connor and Fell, of course they're going to end up having the ones that are Lancelot and Arthur, because Lancelot was Arthur's right hand. And there's the whole thing with Lancelot and Guinevere and Arthur. And
which one's Liv Tyler?
There's always that tensions. Liv Tyler that was in Lord of the Rings, right?
No, she was also in. Oh no, it wasn't Liv Tyler. It was Keira Knightley who was in King Arthur. That's what I was thinking of.
Yes. Yeah, I got very confused because Liv Tyler's in Lord of the Rings, and I thought you were purposely making a joke that it's all the same.
No. I was just mixing up my brunettes. That's all.
Yes. Keira Knightley was a version of Guinevere, but she was more of in that version. They play up with the barbarian, the Celtic tribes of England. So, Arthur being a Roman.
Oh, I don't care. I was just making a joke.
Yes. So, anyways, I'm sure it was fine. Like, I didn't hate reading it, but again, I'm not inclined to want to read issue 2. We'll see how that goes.
I feel like you're being too negative, bizarrely, because I think it's a good book that's well written. I just dislike the thing it's doing. I just dislike the premise.
I like the kids' dynamics and stuff. Like, again, I just thought it was fine. I mean, look, I wanted to read Batgirl issue 2. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, so you're being resentful. You're blaming the patrons.
A bit.
Okay.
A bit.
What are you rating C.O.R.T, Children of the Round Table?
I am going to give this a straight 7.
I think that's perfectly fair. I think I'll agree with it. I think I'll agree with that. I have no interest in reading any more, but we'll give the patrons a chance to make us. But I feel like after this review, though, I don't know why you'd want to make us review it, because we're just going to have the same conversation again, I think. So I don't know if there's any real reason to. If anything, I'll just be more annoyed because it'll be more steeped into the mythology, because they'll be talking about it more.
Oh, I already know what's gonna happen. As this book gets going, I'm gonna like it more, and you're gonna like it less, and our things will cross, and that's how it'll go.